These playoffs have been as unpredictable as a pregnant woman's mood swings. Going into the conference final, the two remaining Eastern Conference teams are the 7th and 8th seeds. Think about that for a minute. Which means that we have the potential to witness a Stanley Cup final between the first team in the NHL and the 16th ranked team in the NHL. Only in hockey. Welcome to the penalty box. The Cinderella run continues for the Montreal Canadiens as they knock off the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins in 7 games. And this series was a back-and-forth affair. The Penguins seemed to have their strategy set from the get-go by parking Bill Guerin right in front of Halak and taking shots from the point all day. And it worked for a bit, but Montreal blocked shots more and more and used a shut-down defense to silence Crosby and Malkin. Where was this Hal Gill when he played for the Leafs? It's insane to think that a team that has been outshot and outplayed in every single postseason game could make it this far, but here we are. Team Halak and his band of merry men are still plugging away. And one thing I want to know, where did this version of Halak come from? I mean, sure, during the regular season he was a decent goalie, but now he looks like Superman. Anyway, congratulations, Montreal. A word of advice, if you win the next series, try not to tear your city apart. Now for this series, I was lucky enough to be in Boston for the first 3 games, and let me tell you, the atmosphere in Boston was great. I am not pleased with this series. I mean, what Philly did was gutsy. It's never easy to come back from 3 down in a series, but Boston totally fell apart, totally let them back in this series. And back into the final game. In a metaphor for the entire series, Boston goes up 3 down early, and they get complacent. And Philly would not back down. And all of a sudden they've got momentum and Boston's caught napping. And there's the power play, and there's the goal, and there's the loss. And I'm disappointed because now this Philly team joins the elite in the NHL's history, being one of only 3 teams to come back from a 3-0 deficit to win the series. The 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs, the 1975 New York Islanders, and the 2010 Philadelphia Flyers. If that was an SAT question, it would be, which of these don't belong? This Philly team is okay, they do deserve some credit for what they accomplished, even if Boston choked. But they're not elite. Boston fans are following Sean Thornton's lead and complaining about the too many men call. But to be honest, that seemed bang on to me. I mean, it seems to be happening more and more in these playoffs, a crossed wire and someone jumps on when they're not supposed to. Does it suck? Yes. But was it the correct call? Yes. And while I do believe that whoever won this series was eventually going to lose to Montreal, I thought Boston would have at least had more of a chance. They could have used their physical play as an edge. And at least it would have brought a more exciting brand of hockey. There's nothing exciting about watching Carcillo be Sean Avery version 2.0. Wow. I did not expect the total ponage coming out of San Jose. San Jose may have finally turned me into a believer. The front line is finally waking up, and while they're still not the best players on the team, they're putting up very respectable showings. Joe Thornton has 11 points in 11 postseason games, and considering he only had 3 assists in his first 6, that's pretty impressive. Joe Pavelski continues to play out of his mind, putting up 15 points in 11 games. Evgeny Nabokov has put together a .929 save percentage over the course of the playoffs. What? Even after that 7-1 shelling? And the Red Wings did look like a shadow of their former selves out there, but when you have a goaltender putting together those kind of numbers, any team will look like an underperformer. Canada's Western Conference hope has been eliminated as the Blackhawks knock off the Canucks in 6 games. And there's one main reason Chicago managed to do this. Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook managed to keep the Sedins off the scoreboard throughout the entire series. Henrik Sedin scored twice, and his brother Daniel only scored once. Remember my first playoff video when I said the success of the Canucks depends on the Sedins? Well, there you go. Not to mention Kessler not scoring, being hampered by both a shoulder injury and the Keith-Seabrook pairing. Those are the Canucks' 3 best forwards. And people might be tempted to blame Luongo, call him an underperformer, say he choked, what have you. And it's easy to do that, especially when you look at Game 6's score. And I may sound crazy for saying this, but I'm not sure you can totally fault him here. Throughout Game 6, the entire back end of Vancouver fell apart. The defense committed dozens of brutal turnovers and just hung Luongo out to dry. Critics will point to the couple of softies he let in, but by that point the game was out of reach. I mean, after that short-handed Dave Bolin goal, he might have let in a couple of ones he could have stopped maybe, but at that point, with no show from your offense, it's already 3-0, 4-1, 5-1, what do you expect? At that point, the entire team was demoralized. Canucks GM Mike Gillis promises changes in the offseason and possibly even a new captain in Vancouver. Which I agree with. Because while I am a Luongo fan, I don't exactly believe he's captain material. Alright, moving on to the meat and potatoes, here we go with my conference final predictions. And like last time, link to a blog down there. The Philadelphia Flyers versus the Montreal Canadiens. Question: what does Philadelphia have that Montreal's previous opponents didn't? Answer: nothing. I've heard people say that Philly could get around Montreal with a little game planning, but I don't buy it. If you can shut down Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, you could shut down Mike Richards and Simone Gagne. And that's not to mention goaltending. If they had Boucher, the Flyers might have been able to put up a respectable showing, but without him, well... Leighton's save percentage in the final game against Boston was .880, barely beating out Tuukka Rask's .857. Neither of those numbers would have been able to hold a candle to Halak. The Flyers are dinged up, missing 2 of their top players to injury. That's a major problem going up against the Red Hot Canadiens team. No Carter, no Boucher, no chance. Habs win in 6 games. The San Jose Sharks versus the Chicago Blackhawks. This one will be a good one. San Jose is starting to roll, completely crushing the Red Wings, while Chicago has looked equally impressive against Vancouver, especially in that 5-1 whomping in Game 6. They have equally impressive offenses, good defenses, and solid goaltending. This one's a tough one to call. But in my mind, one factor stands out above all the rest in this series: the performance of Brent Seabrook and Duncan Keith. Against Vancouver, Seabrook and Keith totally shut down Kessler and the Sedin twins. If they can do that against San Jose's best, they give themselves a hell of a chance. Another problem facing San Jose: their long layoff. San Jose has been sitting for an entire week since beating Detroit. You can lose a lot of momentum that way. Just ask last year's Bruins. Never underestimate the power of a layoff. It can do crazy things to a team. It'll be close, but I'll say Chicago wins it in 7. Alright, there you go. There are my predictions. Let me know what you think. See you next time.